here with Steve from Enlighten. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about your role at Enlighten and just kind of some background on the agency?
Sure. I'm the CEO and founder of Enlighten, and I founded it 32 years ago. So I used to be a youngin', and now I'm old in the industry. But I lay claim to being the first digital agency, although the term didn't exist back then. I had the idea of connecting with people sort of interactively and digitally. And so I started an agency to do that. It was back on floppy diskettes. And then as sort of technology has changed, we just continue to change with it.
And where are you at today? What is kind of the things that Enlighten's working on?
I would consider ourselves a pretty traditional digital agency at this point. We're a very strategically led agency, but it's primarily web, mobile, and then sort of, I guess now a lot of content marketing as well.
How would you define success in your role?
Well, there's lots of success. For me, when I really try to think of success in some level, I think of like, what can I really control? And what I can really control is sort of the culture of the organization and sort of how we treat each other and how we treat clients and sort of the opportunities that we create for ourselves. So in some ways, I'm most successful when I feel like that's doing really well. Of course, that doesn't really pay all the bills. So, there's a success measure based on like, do we feel like the work we're doing is meaningful? Are clients liking it? Is it being recognized? Are we making money? But ultimately, I actually feel like my success is making people at Enlighten happy.
And how do you kind of help the business support the people within it to be motivated and do their jobs well?
Well, I think one hand, I really try to make clear what sort of the culture is at Enlighten. And we have sort of I'm not a big mission statement person, but I created something a while ago that I really like, which is do good, be good, have fun. And that sort of gets imbued throughout the company. And the do good is if we're going to spend our time doing something, let's make it killer. Like, let's not just do stuff that's okay. The be good is like, we want to be ethical, nice, treat people well. And the have fun is, I started this company as a little kid, I thought. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I mentioned to you, I think yesterday, felt like playing a game. And, so I try to imbue that as well, that, we're just having fun, we're playing a game. To our clients, we're all buttoned up and professional, but inside we're kind of laughing at ourselves.
Yeah. How would you define strategy as it relates to a CMO?
I think that really depends on the CMO and the organization. I think traditionally CMOs have been charged with, we have these products and services which you had probably little to do with crafting or creating, and you need to actually create awareness and sort of, demand for these products. So I think often the strategy for those type of CMOs was basically, what do I do to sort of create awareness and drive, attention? I do think that there's a new breed of CMO that's, the CMO to CEO route that you're seeing more, where these people actually are having more impact actually on the product and services that their company offers. And in that case, I think that the strategy is significantly different.
And then how do you think it fits within the CEO role?
I think a CEO has, once again, depending on, the level of the company, if they're a publicly traded company, their core line is, we're trying to bring value to shareholders, and so their strategy is around the things that bring value to shareholders, which is basically profit and revenue growth. But outside of that, if you step down a level, like how do you get that? I think strategy for them is trying to figure out where to play in the market, what products and services to bring, and so forth.
In your opinion, how has the world changed over the past 12 months?
Well, I assume you mean in sort of the world that we play in as opposed to geopolitical. I think that there's just more and more push in terms of, the difficulty of connecting with consumers and the challenge in doing that. The challenge of being a message-led organization or a brand-led organization, I think, is harder. I think that, it's been a huge push on customer experience, but I see that really, really huge now, that everyone's into customer experience. Design is sort of the new strategy. So that's sort of the big trends that I think I see, especially with our clients.
In a world that's so driven by data today, why do you think creative still matters?
I think that whole conversation around data and creativity, I think is, to me, kind of strange. I mean, all great creative comes from insight. I mean, you don't do creative in a vacuum. And all data does is actually give you more like ability to create insight. So I think creative has not changed at all. Now there's creative around algorithmic stuff that, people are doing things based on data and showing different content or showing different design. But to me, that's not really creative, but some people might call it, creative. But to me, there's just a ton of data, and people then have more data to use to actually make their sort of creative decisions. So I think it's, in some ways, a lot to do about nothing, really, or much to do about nothing.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you keep your team kind of abreast of the business goals of Enlighten and kind of working towards the bigger picture?
Right. Like I said, that mission, do good, be good, have fun, is really the overarching. We're a fairly eclectic organization. Lots of shiny objects are interesting to me, so we sort of, chase lots of different things. Like I said, the overarching goal is, whatever we do, we're doing it really, really well. And sort of, while profit is important, we're never going to sign up for something and deliver anything that isn't, brilliant in our minds. So to me, everyone knows that, and everyone sort of really marches to that. Now, on top of that, we do put out directions, sort of, this is sort of the areas that we're going to focus on. This is sort of the story we're telling in a way to the marketplace. We do put out financial goals, but we're not like every quarter standing up in front of the management, isn't standing in front of the company and saying, we missed this financial goal. We report on financial goals, and we sometimes say, we wished we would have made this goal, but it's not like, it's everyone's fault or anyone's fault.
What do you find motivates your team?
I think the culture really and the environment to basically, there's a lot of empowerment within Enlighten. So because it's fairly flat structure, I think people get motivated by the amount of actual control they have in the outcome of what they do. I also think that, we really try to hire very smart people. And the strategy behind that is, if you're working on something and you're in a group and everyone's really, really smart, you don't want to seem like the dumb one.
Yeah.
So what motivates people is like they want to hold up their end of the deal, because we have people, who aren't just phoning it in, that are really going at it. So you don't want to be looked upon as like, the sort of weak performer in the group. So in some ways, that's like the largest motivator.
Yeah.
And then, there's all the financial motivators as well. We have like profit sharing and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, while money is a motivator, I think the ability for people to do great work when they have a lot of control is like really important.
Can you describe the attributes of one of your top performers?
At our company, really smart, really great in a specific discipline. While there's been a movement towards these multidisciplined people, which I love to find, generally, like when we find a designer, writer, front-end engineer combo, usually they're not as good as any one of our dedicated people in any of those disciplines. Every once in a while you can find that person, but it's really hard. So to me, being really great in your craft, really smart, and you have to be really pretty confident at Enlighten, and you have to be able to take initiative. The unfortunate part about the way we run our agency is there isn't this training path that people just sort of go through. And you have to quickly, there's lots of smart people there, and you have to sort of feel like you can stand up for what you want and be able to argue with it. And no matter who in the, there is a hierarchy, but if I go into a meeting and I tell somebody, that seems like kind of a stupid idea, or I don't like this, the best performers go, that's bullshit, I don't agree at all with him.
Yeah.
We're doing it this way. So to me, that's, that's what makes Enlighten like a great place and our work good.
Can you describe the difference between an idea and a solution?
I think an idea would really be like a strategy, and a solution would sort of be the tactic to, execute on that idea.
So what brought you to Cannes this week? What are you looking to get out of your experience here?
I mean, I came for a couple reasons. I came to support SOTA. You know, we were one of the early members, and it's been a sort of a great organization, and, you know, I love to be able to support it. I'd never been to Cannes before. You know, it's interesting, as an agency, we've probably put, in some ways, a little less focus around, like, isn't this one message in visual, like, amazing? But I know that a lot of Cannes is really just celebrating creativity at, like, all levels. So I sort of wanted to, in some ways, get sort of more excited about sort of that kind of view of creativity, since we've sort of focused a little bit more on sort of customer experience as brand versus just an amazing, like, message campaign. So it's kind of fun to see the focus here on that.
So my last question is, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? You know, I'm fairly curious, and I look at what's happening around, and I'm always wondering, should we be doing more of this? Should we be doing this? And I look at the work that other people are doing, and I have to admit, it's probably not something people like to admit, but I get jealous. I don't get jealous in the fact that I wish we were as good as this, but I get jealous as, like, how come we didn't get that project? How come we're not doing that? So I churn, you know, a lot about thinking about that. And that's part of, in some ways, the yin and yang about Enlighten. It's like, you know, you can't really be great at everything. You can't try to do everything. Yet I have a really hard time, like, giving that up, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much. I'll let you get back to the festival.
Okay.
Appreciate being here.
Sure, thanks.